Hello, welcome back to KXAN Live. Thanks for joining us here. I'm your anchor, Esmeralda Zamora, and today we have our Nick's First Warning weather segment with our chief meteorologist, Nick Bannin. How are you doing today, Nick?
Hey, I'm great. The sun is out. Got rid of that morning fog that was pretty thick in spots, but it is so nice outside. Have you been outside, Esme?
I'm looking at it through my fake
That
window.
fake window doesn't count. You've got to get out in the sun.
Yeah, it feels great. I walked outside for lunchtime, and it was a lot different from when I walked to my car to come to work this morning. So I was glad to see that sun peeking through.
Yeah, the afternoon sun this week, which is sort of the theme for much of the week, is really nice, and we deserve it after some pretty cold and cloudy and at times damp weather. Now, we can always say, hey, we need more rain, and don't get me wrong, I know that we need more rain, but this is what we're given, and it looks really nice.
Yeah, and this weekend is the start of spring, if I'm not mistaken. What can we expect with that start and the end of meteorological winter?
Yeah, meteorological seasons. These are the full months, and that's how meteorologists break it up so that we're always comparing the same months when we're looking back at previous winters and looking at current winters. So it's much easier to compare it when you're comparing the same dates. Unlike astronomical seasons, those days actually shift a little bit each year, so it makes it hard to compare. That's why we do that, and that's why we do it the way that we do it. Let's first talk about February, which is almost done. At the end of February, marking the end of meteorological winter. You can see we started very warm. In fact, it was the warmest start to February on record, with those 70s and temperatures well into the 80s, almost 90 there on the 8th of February. And then we hit a cold streak. You could see almost 2 weeks in a row of chillier than normal high temperatures. Yes, our high there on the 19th of February was only 29. So that colder stretch worked to offset that warmer stretch quite well. And now we're working our way to a warm end to February. That 57, by the way, for today, that was the high for today as of 7 this morning. We'll get our official high later on. Now, we have had some rain this month. It's been damp, but most of the days that we've had rain, the rain has been very light. The exception to that being February 11th, where we had more than an inch of rain. That really stands out, and really what made this month near average as far as rainfall goes, at least for now. So let's turn the page and head into meteorological spring. And first up is the month of March. So the spring outlook from the Climate Prediction Center came out last week, as did the March outlook too. So we want to tackle both at the same time here. March, of course, being the first month of meteorological spring. And the darker the shading here, the higher the confidence. And as those shades get darker, as you head west of Austin toward West Texas, and even portions of New Mexico, then the odds are much higher there for drier than normal. But we're leaning drier than normal for March, which of course is not a good thing considering the drought for us. But our odds are very good for warmer than normal temperatures in March. And this is compared to the 30-year averages for March. So we're warmer than what the average temperature has been for the last 30 years in the month of March. Now, you may wonder, what is normal in March? Well, normally our high at the beginning of the month is around 69, and by the end of the month, it's in the upper 70s. Our normal lows at the beginning of the month, 49, and then we end up in the mid-50s by the end of the month. We average 2.88 inches of rain at Austin's Camp Mabry. That puts it almost right in the middle there, the sixth wettest month of the year, which is nothing either one way or the other, really, right in the middle. And then we average one freeze in Austin in the month of March. We're not seeing any signs of any additional freezes after the frequent freezes we had last week, but it's certainly possible, especially through that first half of March, especially, that we're not quite done yet. And by the way, severe weather season begins for us at the beginning of March and runs through the middle of June. So that's something that we're aware of as well.
So when you talk about spring starting this weekend, do you have an outlook of what our spring season is going to look like, or do we have kind of an idea?
Yeah, so that came out as well last Thursday, and let's jump to that. First talking about the rain, and it sort of mirrors the March outlook a little bit, leaning drier than normal, but with not a lot of confidence behind that. The higher confidence of the drier than normal weather for spring, which is March, April, May, is as you get closer to New Mexico and even into almost into Arizona. Yeah, into Arizona. So higher confidence of drier than normal spring weather. Farther west, we're just leaning drier than normal for spring. And spring, by the way, is our wettest season. This is how much rain we typically get each month of spring. 2.88 inches, as we already mentioned, for March. April's actually a little drier than March on average, with less than 2.5 inches of rain. Then as we head into May, which is easily our wettest month of the whole year, we average more than 5 inches of rain. In fact, no month averages more than 4 inches of rain except May, and May averages more than 5 inches of rain. The second wettest month is October, and we average just under 4 inches of rain in October. So there really is a big gap between May, easily our wettest month of the year, and then every other month of the year. So we count on a wet May to help try to set us up for success into the summer months. If May ends up being dry, that typically can lead to much hotter weather settling into the summer with a drier ground in place. But let's hope we can spread out the rain evenly over March, April, and May. That could avoid some flooding concerns and would be beneficial nevertheless, although we do count on some flooding to help fill up our lakes. Want to talk about the temperature outlook for spring. Again, that's March, April, and May. And what you can see here is that the odds are pretty good. In fact, fairly likely that we're in for a warmer than normal spring. March, April, May, again, the full months of all those 3 months, all combined, equal meteorological spring. This is how our high temperatures usually pan out from an average high perspective for the month of March at 73, which is usually pretty nice. April, not too bad either at 80, and then we start getting warmer and more humid in May with average highs approaching 90. We're in the 87 degree area there as far as average highs go for the month of May. So, and again, that outlook was warmer than normal for March, April, and May. Doesn't mean that we're not going to have some colder periods. It's all about how it sort of evens out in the end, Esme.
And we are expecting some rain, like you mentioned, throughout March, but also throughout all of spring, right?
Yeah, so spring is our wettest season of the year, followed by fall. Actually, not followed too far behind by fall, but May really stands out. But it's not just a wet season for us. It can be a very stormy one as well. We sort of hinted that our severe weather season begins, at the beginning of March and lasts through middle of June. And we can get tornadoes, hail, flash flooding, and of course damaging wind during this season. And in fact, we've looked back at some of the data. The severe weather incidents by month in the KEWX radar coverage area, which is sort of a unique way to look at it, but it's some of the data that's available, and it goes back pretty far. And we averaged 32 incidents of either hail, wind, or tornadoes in March in that area. That's basically near the New Braunfels radar, and then which covers most of our 15 county viewing area too. And then those numbers go up a little bit in April, and then a lot more in May. So May stands out in so many ways as being our wettest month easily, and usually the month with the majority of our severe weather too. And in fact, May has over twice as many tornadoes than any other month here in Central Texas. Flash flooding risk doubles from April to May. The most common severe weather type that we see, which sort of looks at the 3 types, hail, wind, or tornadoes. Hail is the most common. And then the most severe weather wind damage comes in the month of June. And these are looking back at statistics that while it still kind of spreads it out over those 3.5 severe weather months, it does give June a little bit of an edge there as far as not just wind damage, but we can get some noticeable flash flooding in the month of June too. So narrowing down the severe weather season a little bit more, we say it peaks in May, the flash flooding risk peaks in May to June, but what about the incidents here? And this is just broadly speaking. The hail risk peaks in early May, the tornado risk peaks in mid-May, and the wind risk peaks late May into portions of June. It doesn't mean that you're not going to have wind damage at the beginning of May or anything like that. This is just looking back at the years, this is when we've seen the majority of the issues here. And then lastly, flash flooding season, which does overlap with our severe weather season. If our severe weather season is March through the middle of June, flash flooding season is May through July, caused by very slow moving thunderstorms. You'll find that the thunderstorms move a little more progressively through the area in March and April, and then they slow down a little bit in May, June, and July, and it's that slower motion that can produce a lot of rain over a small area here in Central Texas that can lead to the flash flooding. So May through July is our thunderstorm-induced flash flooding season. The peak of flash flood season is in June, but then we get a secondary flooding season typically caused by decaying tropical systems, and that's August through October, which right now is not our focus, but I just wanted to tie up the loose ends by talking about that.
You know, coming out of this freezing weather, I feel like we haven't been able to catch a break, and that severe weather season is starting. It's creeping in around the corner.
Yeah, I know. It's can you believe that March 1st is Saturday?
No,
but the way that severe weather season typically happens is you only get a few incidents of severe weather in March. Again, I'm talking in big generalities here. And then we start ramping up a little bit more in April, and then May. Late April into May is when we usually get the worst of it. So while the season begins very soon and we want you ready for it, having a way to stay informed is perhaps the biggest key. We don't want storms coming in the middle of the night and you've turned your phone off or it's on silent. Make sure you have those alerts set up either with the KXAN weather app or the automatic alerts that go to your phone so that they wake you in the event of some particularly nasty weather. Mm-hmm. Staying informed is key because we don't want you saying, oh, I didn't know it was going to happen. Because, the National Weather Service, our local offices do a great job of putting out those warnings, and we try to pass those warnings along to you through various methods, but you have to find a way to have a way to stay informed. Otherwise, those warnings, those watches, they get missed, and then you get caught off guard. So we want to make sure that that doesn't happen, which is why it's good to start talking about it now, even though the severe weather season takes a little bit to ramp up.
Yeah, and we have our weather app that is a great resource. We also have our website, kxan.com, and all of the latest information regarding weather and news is always on that homepage for anyone who is looking to be informed. But about severe weather, what is the most severe weather you've been around?
I was back in Massachusetts, and we had an EF3 tornado develop just across the Connecticut River, and we could see it drop down and then cross the river and move through downtown Springfield, Massachusetts. At the time, it was on the ground for, I think, more than 40 miles. So that was pretty significant. And I was here during the tornado outbreak we had where we saw that tornado cross 35 and 45 in Round Rock at the time. That was one of several tornadoes that we had that day. Tornadoes for me have been the part of the bigger severe weather events that I've been a part of. We've also had some very significant dangerous hail. I think it was September of 2 years ago where we had a massive hailstorm move through the northern metro down through parts of Austin that caused so much damage. It was I think the costliest hailstorm in Austin area history just a couple of Septembers ago. So there's been a few here, and they sometimes don't always line up with our severe weather season. Even if the number of incidents go up during our severe weather season, you can have these ones that fall out of our season here. But worth being ready year round, even though this is the time that we see the biggest clustering of severe weather.
This is going to be a different season for me because coming from Corpus, we were always having hurricanes or tropical storms.
Yeah.
So I'm not so close to the coast up here in Austin, but ready to be prepared for this severe weather season up here in Central Texas.
We will help you get through it. There's a lot of people moving to Central Texas every single day. And for some, this will be their first severe weather season too. Mm-hmm. So welcome to town, first of all, and we'll help guide you through it. This will not be the only time that we talk about severe weather season here. Over the coming weeks and months, we'll be doing more about that here, not just on our KXAN Lives on Tuesday, but on our blogs. And all that sort of thing to help you get prepared and stay informed. And speaking of blogs, I did blog the March Outlook and the Spring Outlook. That's on kxan.com right now. It's titled Spring Forecast, What to Expect March through May. You can also see the link to it on the homepage. Also under the weather and traffic tab, it can recap some of all the information that we've talked about here today. And separately, Esme, earlier today, the Lady Bird Johnson Wildflower Center released their outlook for the wildflower season and what they're expecting as far as wildflowers go in the spring and summer and the bloom and how weather relates to that. So separately on KXAN.com, I've got a blog about that. We're actually going to have a guest from the Lady Bird Johnson Wildflower Center join us via Zoom on our 4 p.m. newscast to dig into some of the information and how drought is being responsible for what for some will be a good wildflower season, what for others may not be so much. So lots to dig into there, but hopefully you'll join us at 4 o'clock where we get even more in depth on the big bloom of bluebonnets that everyone's so excited about. I know we've seen a few over the last few weeks and many more to come, I hope.
Yes, and we also have another cool story that our digital reporters published yesterday on a new species of sunflower that was found.
Oh, yes.
That's also a good read that you can find on our homepage, kxan.com.
Very good.
Well, thanks so much for joining us here, Nick. We're excited to see what topic we're going to cover next week, and we're glad that you were here to join us.
Yes, and everyone, hopefully we can say that we enjoyed this winter. We certainly had our share of cold and snow and ice at times, but then meteorological spring begins on Saturday. And a heads up, in 2 Sundays, so not this Sunday, but the following Sunday, daylight saving time begins too. That's March 9th. So we spring forward, we lose an hour of sleep, but you'll notice much more light in the evening, which is good for some people.
Some people.
Yeah.
Thank you, Nick.
Thanks.